Hello and welcome. In this analysis, we're taking a structured, data-driven look at UK's citizenship fees over a 20-year period.
Over the last 20 years, UK immigration fees have changed significantly. But how much of that change was inflation, and how much was real growth? Using official UK Home Office and ONS data, this analysis breaks down the numbers from 2006 to 2026, comparing immigration costs to wages, inflation, and housing. This is not commentary. This is structured economic measurement.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to lay out the groundwork, what we're looking at, and what the key terms mean. Then we'll walk through the timeline of the fee changes themselves. From there, we'll get into the real meat of it, the real-term cost analysis. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at affordability and drawing some data-driven conclusions.
Okay, let's get started. Section 1 is all about scope and definitions. Before we can dive into the numbers, we have to be really clear about what we're measuring and how we're measuring it. It's all about establishing a solid analytical framework.
So, to be super clear, for this analysis, we're focusing specifically on the adult naturalization application fee plus that mandatory ceremony fee. We're starting our clock back in 2006 and running it through to a projection for 2026. Now, what's just as important is what we're not including. Things like the Life in the UK test, any English language tests, or legal advice, those are out of scope. This just helps us keep the comparison clean and consistent over the 2 decades.
And here's a really critical concept for everything that follows: real terms. What does that actually mean? Well, it's just the value of money adjusted for inflation. So instead of only looking at the sticker price, we're measuring the cost in terms of actual purchasing power. This shows us how affordable something really is over time, which, as you'll see, tells a much more interesting story.
Okay, let's move on to Section 2, the fee timeline. In this section, we're just going to track the nominal cost increases, basically the face value of the fees, from 2006 all the way to 2026.
And you can really see the climb here. Back in 2006, the total cost was £618. Fast forward to 2014, and it's up to $986. By 2018, we see another big jump to $1,330. And more recently, a 20% increase in 2023 pushed it to $1,630. Looking ahead, our projections suggest it's on track to hit around £1,839 by 2026.
Now we're getting to the heart of the analysis in Section 3. This is our real-term cost analysis. This is where we take those numbers we just saw and adjust them to figure out their actual economic impact.
And it's really important to stress where our data comes from. Our inflation adjustments aren't just pulled out of thin air. They're all grounded in official data from the Office for National Statistics, specifically using the Consumer Prices Index, or CPI.
So this is where it gets really interesting, right? You've got 2 different stories. The nominal increase is that straightforward jump in price, from £618 to a projected £1,839. But the real terms increase, well, that tells us something different. It shows us how much the cost has grown above and beyond the general rate of inflation. It's the part of the price hike that isn't just everything's getting more expensive. And this chart, this really brings the affordability question to life. Think about it this way. Back in 2006, the fee was about 1.6 weeks of the median full-time salary. But by 2026, it's projected to be about 2.4 weeks of that same median salary. So the fee hasn't just gone up in price, it's actually taking a bigger chunk out of the average person's paycheck to cover it.
And this number, 179%, is pretty crucial. According to the Home Office's own figures, the actual cost to process one application in 2025 is £575, but the fee they charge is $1,605. That difference is a 179% markup. It's important to understand this surplus is used by the government to cross-subsidize other parts of the wider migration and border system.
All right, let's bring this all together in our final section, Section 4, Affordability and Conclusions. We're going to look at a practical model and then lay out the main data-driven takeaways from this whole analysis.
So, to make this a bit more concrete, let's step outside our very specific scope for just a second. If you're a single adult applying in 2025, you've got more costs than just the main application and ceremony fees. When you factor in the mandatory Life in the UK test and a potential English test, well, the total estimated cost climbs to £1,935. This really gives you a sense of the total upfront financial hurdles someone might be facing.
So after looking at all this data, what are the key things to take away? First, it's clear the fee model has changed. It's moved from just recovering costs to being a significant revenue stream for the government. Second, the sticker price, the nominal cost, has shot up by nearly 200% in these 2 decades. Third, and this is a big one, those fee hikes have outpaced both inflation and wage growth, which means in real terms, citizenship has become less affordable. And finally, that 2025 fee has a 179% markup built into it, over and above the actual cost of processing.
This has been Migration Cost Index, structured, data-driven analysis of migration costs in the United Kingdom. All figures are based on publicly available data and presented without commentary. For continued economic analysis, see the next video in this series.